excited because the Space Shuttle Endeavour here in Los Angeles, after years of discussing it, is finally going to move into the vertical position.
Yeah.
Didn't you see this?
Yeah, it took 2 blue pills.
Okay.
Stood it right up.
What? Good for it.
Quiet, please.
But here's the thing. If it's in that position for more than 4 hours, you got to contact the vehicle engineer.
In 4, 3,
Call your
2.
engineer.
The Apple Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense, Season 2, Episode 3. I'm Jeff Parker.
When did you become Ed McMahon? That was Santa Claus is what that was.
Well,
I'm Stiddle.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, we'll look at typos. Typos.
Wow, we are just on a steady decline into the most boring programming possible.
It's National Gourmet Coffee Day.
Hooray.
Coffee's past is shrouded with legend and theory, but one thing is certain, it's been around for centuries. It's believed that ancestors of today's Oromo people in Ethiopia's Jimma region were the first to notice the coffee plant's energizing power. Have you noticed any that I've had?
Maybe we should settle down.
Actually, I don't drink coffee, but that's kind of a funny idea.
You drink tea,
Yeah.
which arguably has more caffeine in it than coffee, so you're getting similar effects.
This is decaf. This is not even, there's no calf at all in this.
Oh, you're drinking decaf today.
Yeah.
That's why you're always low energy on this show, and I'm always the one.
Is that it?
I'm always the one dragging us forward.
That would explain it.
Here's my thing. Okay, so this always fascinates me. People, 1,000 years ago, figured out that this berry on this plant, they could roast.
They just get wired.
Crush and put water in it, whatever, and get wired. Like, somebody to figure that out.
It's a lot of steps. You think somebody just pulled the bean first and just chewed on it and ate it and went, ooh, this is awful.
But a couple of things, though. One, think about how many people had to die eating the things that were poisonous to get to this, right? First of all, there's
of course.
There's a whole bunch of, survivor bias stories that aren't being told because, Jim ate the other blue plant.
And isn't alive to tell his story.
And they're like, well, don't eat that anymore. Write that down on the fucking cave wall. Let's not eat that. But the thing that's even more interesting is somewhere at some point in time, someone said, hey, I noticed that cat ate that berry and then shit it out. Let's go make tea out of that.
Let's cook that up.
Right? If you really want to be gourmet coffee, if you're not doing it's called the Kaupi Luwak, I think is what it's called.
It's not popular. It's not something that can be made in mass.
It's literally made in a brown mass. Hello. I've never tried it, but I kind of want to, and I'm surprised they haven't made this like the Centurion version of the venti at Starbucks, where you walk in, you're like, well, you can have the $7 venti, or you can have the $70 venti that a cat shit out.
You have the $300 venti.
Like, I just feel like I need to get like a traveling band of cats, just stray cats that eat coffee beans and shit them out. That's my startup plan. I'm gonna go pitch NEA and Sequoia for money.
How's your week going?
Pretty good now that I'm caffeinated.
Yeah.
Because as you know, for National Coffee Day, I've ingested at least 4 shots of caffeine just for this show.
Fantastic. In the week?
So far, it's well. I mean, we're not done yet. I've got a camping trip this weekend, so I get through that.
Oh my gosh, that sounds fun.
It should be a blast. I'm taking the kids to a place that I like quite a bit that's out in the desert. It's a lot of sand. It's a lot of slot canyons that are really cool. And I've spent most of my week preparing for this trip, including dismantling most of my truck to put it back together again with new parts. Yeah? It's very exciting. That's been it.
That's cool. That's really cool.
How about you?
My new phone came, which is, I know I said it was coming last week and it was delayed.
Oh, yeah, you got the iPhone, right? The new 15 Pro. You like it?
I got the Pixel Pro 8, which is, I'm blown away by how much cool AI is in this thing. Although I've yet to try all of it because there's so much. It's really cool. Phones were going to be little AI devices shortly. Once you play with this thing, you go, we're not going back.
Sure,
this
totally.
is exactly
100%.
where we're heading. Should we get to our headlines?
We should.
FAA widens Boeing probe and eyes subcontractor used by aerospace giant. The Federal Aviation Administration widened its probe into Boeing and will pay special attention to the work of a subcontractor used by the aerospace giant. Federal investigators want to know more about Spirit Aerosystems, a Wichita, Kansas aerospace company that makes and installs plug doors for Boeing's 737 MAX 9 airplanes. Spirit Aerosystems said it's cooperating with investigators. What do you think of that?
I think I get a little concerned anytime somebody says they want to, quote, widen their probe. I'm always mildly concerned. I'm like, wait a minute, you're my dentist. Why do you want to widen the probe? And then
But also, do you think this is all they do is make these plug doors and install these plug doors? Or do they have 5 other specialties or things that they do?
If Spirit Aerosystems just made plug doors, I think it would do what it said on the tin. It would be like Spirit plug door systems. I don't think they'd say Spirit Aerosystems. Yeah, the question is, what other parts are you not tightening? lightning.
Does the name Spirit alarm you at all?
Yes.
Because we've all heard about Spirit
Yes.
Air.
Previously, this company was known as the Holy Spirit Aerosystems. They dropped the holy.
Is that it?
Yeah. The divine trinity of aircraft. No, I'm mildly concerned that they could maybe, I don't know, tighten the bolts or put better bolts in, not run down to fucking Home Depot when you run out.
Especially since there are only 4 of them. Go ahead and tighten all 4
There are
of
only
them.
4. Yeah. We're not talking about an N+1 situation. We're talking about N. Just fucking N.
The sudden shortage of aircraft is leading between 110 and 150 flight cancellations per day. And of course, we had 2,400 domestic flights canceled yesterday because of the weather. So 150 is pretty much a rounding error.
Well, no, hold on. I don't know how, if you've got the MAX 9 fleet grounded that have plugs, I don't know how that's only 150-ish flights a day. That should be a lot more, I would think.
You would think. And just in the U.S., that's 200 planes or something.
No, it's got to be less than that. I mean, you figure if there's 150 flights canceled, one aircraft is doing more than one flight. So you got to think
Of course.
It just does not make sense to me.
But I think there were 200 sold in the U.S., so obviously there are some who are redundant or
I
not
see
in
what you're saying.
service or something.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. They just give you a Greyhound ticket. Sorry, your flight's canceled. Here you go. Good luck.
It's just the worst, especially when it's just freezing cold weather and you're miserable to be outside anyway, and you get to the airport and your flight's not going, and awful.
Southwest.
Google Search, Chrome, and Android are all changing thanks to EU antitrust law.
Yeah.
On Android, Google is introducing a new browser choice screen during the initial setup, similar to what it already offers to let users pick between different search engines.
Okay.
The search engine choice screen's roots lie in a 4.3 billion euro fine from the EU over Android antitrust violations in 2018.
So I've seen the mock-ups of this. When you start the browser, it says, what do you want to use as a search engine? And then it defaults to Google, but then you can select below it Alta Vista.
You can. That's nice.
And if you want Alta Vista, there's Lycos.
Is Alta Vista still up and running? Is there still, if you go to Alta Vista, is there still something there?
AltaVista.net? Is it still there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
AltaVista.net. Oh my God. AltaVista.net lands you at search.yahoo.com.
Oh, that's funny. Yahoo bought it?
I'm guessing. I don't think they're squatting on it.
Alta Vista, for those who don't know, was like the big search engine before Yahoo, before Google.
I was purchased by Yahoo in 2003, which retained the brand.
Outside of Android, Google's Chrome browser is also getting a similar choice screen for search engines to prompt users to choose an alternative to Google search if they desire.
Yeah.
Both will appear on devices purchased in the European Economic Area after March 6th.
In similar sort of design, I believe you can also pick the browser on your Android phone, and you can choose from Google Chrome or Internet Explorer 7. Those are your options.
You can actually choose Firefox or Opera. There's a ton of them you can choose from.
I mean,
unlike Apple, which claims that the browser is part of the operating system and therefore you can only have one. And even though there's a Chrome browser, it still is using that stupid
WebKit
rendering engine, that WebKit. It's still using that stupid old WebKit that barely works.
Do you think like there was just somebody like something like an intern sitting in the legal department at Apple flipping through like some history docs and was like, hey, look at this. Microsoft just said it was part of the OS. We should use that as a defense.
I guess it makes zero sense. I get why they want to do it, because they want to really limit what you can do in the browser.
It seemed fine.
I totally understand that. They don't want you to have, PWAs and web apps, what they used to call instant apps, working on the iOS so that they can collect all the payments they want to collect.
Of course. Well,
I get it. But at the same time, it is strange that it's on Android. You can install all sorts of browsers, and you get on the Apple, you are stuck with one.
Do you want their headquarters to be based in a spherical building or not? They need all the money to build the spherical building. Not just round. They started with a ring. No, it's a disc now. The next one's a sphere.
Oh, wow. Cool.
They all went and saw the U2 and they're like, we're going to build a giant sphere. That it's not just it's not like the shitty one in Vegas where it's just half of a sphere. This is an actual full sphere.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dead cars surround chargers as Teslas struggle around frozen weather. A deep freeze has gripped Chicago, with temperatures plunging to an Arctic minus 32 degrees Fahrenheit over the weekend. As a result, Tesla owners are becoming deeply frustrated with their vehicles not being able to charge or hold a charge, even after a trip to the supercharger. Tell me why you can't, what is happening with these cars?
Something, Musk is an idiot, something, I think. Is that how it works?
I think it's probably just because of what the batteries are.
Yeah,
they will
exactly
not work, and when it gets too cold, right?
Well, okay, first of all, you have challenges with all things at extreme temperatures, right? Especially in the cold.
Okay.
Diesel fuel likes to gel, sub 15 degrees Fahrenheit.
Which is why you have engine block heaters all throughout the Midwest. You have to plug in your car.
You'll have heaters. People put heating blankets on their actual fuel tanks to keep them warm.
Yeah.
You have oil that gets very, very thick for internal combustion motors, especially with diesels. So they'll have block heaters on them. Fortunately, non-EVs have lead-acid batteries. Those things do much better in the cold. You've got to get them much colder to freeze.
Sure.
These lithium-ion ion batteries, though, they perform terribly when they get super cold. So I don't own an EV, I don't own a Tesla. My understanding is how this works is they have a preheating mode. So if you're going into a supercharger, especially if you tell the car you're going to a supercharger, it'll precondition the batteries and get them up to temperature so that it can accept the charge. And what I think is happening here is if these batteries are low and they can't keep them warm, they go completely
They're
flat.
draining themselves, heating themselves.
So they can't. So then you can't get juice into the battery.
Which is why you need to keep the Tesla plugged in, like you would have a block heater plugged in. You need to keep your Tesla plugged
Especially
in
the
while
cold.
it's sitting there not being used.
I think that's the case. But then you've got your battery that's, whatever low. You take it to plug it in and it can't get juice in. It's got to use the power from the charger to warm the battery before you can get it in. And that takes a good amount of time. Those batteries aren't light. Those things are...
That's a lot of battery.
Assume they're, somewhere around, I'm thinking 1,000 to 1,500 pounds, maybe even more. That's a lot of weight. And you got to warm that thing up.
Especially when it's pretty much an ice block.
It is a giant ice block.
Because they're cold.
So I think that's the bigger problem. I'm happy to beat up on Tesla, but I think in this particular case...
And by the way, then it's an issue of now you've drained your battery down to zero. You've probably done damage to your battery. You need to keep your Tesla plugged in when you're in cold weather.
I must say the lighter side of this, and again, I'm no Tesla fanboy or apologist, but they seem to do some pretty cool stuff where if you tell the car you're going to a supercharger, it will precondition the battery so that when you arrive, it is ready to go. That's super cool, right?
Yeah.
Do those things in parallel. Don't get there and have it be like, now we're going to start the preconditioning cycle.
I want to make sure I'm clear. I'm not bashing on Tesla either. These problems are going to exist in all electric vehicles.
Sure.
This is not just going to be a Tesla issue.
Yeah. And they probably have the best solution because they've got the best charging infrastructure.
Their charging infrastructure is excellent.
But it seems like you want to keep your car tethered or plugged in if you can. If you can't, keep it topped up. That seems to be the answer. Now, I'm thinking about, I used to do this 15, 20 years ago. As you know, I race cars as a hobby, and there's a specific model car that I drive. I used to make sure I always had like $1,000 cash on me. And if I ever saw one of the models that we raced, I would offer them usually $500 cash to buy it on the spot for parts.
Okay.
I kind of want to do the same thing now around these charging stations. Just sit there with like some hand warmers and $1,000 and just buy dead Teslas for $1,000 and a hand warmer.
Elon threatens to build products outside of Tesla unless he gets more control of the company. Elon Musk has threatened to abandon some of Tesla's most important work on Monday in an ongoing battle over how much he gets paid. The billionaire tweeted that he's uncomfortable working on AI and robotics projects at the company unless he gains more control of its stock. Musk, who owns about a 13% share in the company, threatened to build products outside of Tesla if his ownership doesn't grow to 25%. Well, there's a way to do that. You just write a check.
Yeah, totally. First of all, this I on its surface, I kind of get it. It's like, well, hey, this is how much ownership I have. I have this novel idea. I want to do this somewhere where I get more compensation for it.
Okay, then stop being the CEO, retire from Tesla, and go build your idea.
Sure. The other thing that is fascinating is he's like, well, I had some ownership here. I used it as leverage and I used it as cash to buy this other fucking train wreck over here.
Sure.
I just want more now.
Right. Just give me more. I'm holding you hostage for more shares.
Who does this? Now,
and if the board says yes, although it's a big yes board, they always say yes to him, and it's like always relative.
Of course. If you structure this such as hey, if you want to build these things, we think these things are going to add this much value to the business and you get some ownership in that. Okay, I could maybe wrap my brain around that if it's additive to their business model. I don't know how you get from 13 to 25%.
Right, it's a big jump.
You're adding a lot. I mean, your market cap on this thing is already a beast. So how are you going to add that much value to the business?
Okay, enough of the headlines. Up next, CJ is going to talk about fat-fingered mistakes.
And I'm going to use my fat finger to mash the button. I was thinking it would be fun if we talked about fat fingers.
Now, not sticky fingers.
Yeah.
You're not
No.
talking about stealing things.
No, that'll be next week, though. I like that. That'll be a good theme right there.
You're talking about typos.
Yes, not sausage fingers. That's something totally different.
Okay.
But just typos. Yes, things, kind of mistakes we make when it comes to the human-computer interface.
Oh, specifically computer.
Well,
because there's tons of famous typographical, have you ever heard, do you know what a Wicked Bible is?
a Wicked Bible?
Wicked.
Oh, no, I don't know what a Wicked Bible is, but I want one now.
It's called the Sinner's Bible. There's only
Okay.
like 10 in circulation, and it was a Bible that was printed in 1631.
Yeah.
And it has a typo in it.
Okay.
It says, "Thou shalt commit adultery."
One of the early Gutenberg mistakes? Is that what this is?
That's a little later than Gutenberg, but the publisher hauled into court and fined, 300 pounds for the oversight, and they lost their printing license.
Is that true?
Most of the copies were found and burned, but there are 10 still in circulation.
I bet you those are cheap. What did the last one trade for?
I'm sure they're a fortune.
There's only 10 of them.
There's 10.
That's great.
You ever read Theodore Dreiser's An American Tragedy?
No, I don't read.
He has a line in it that says it's obviously a typographical error, harmoniously abandoning themselves to the rhythm of the music like two small chips being tossed about on a rough but friendly sea. Two small chips instead of ships. But maybe I always picture it that he's talking about a sea of guacamole, and it's two small chips being dashed about on a guacamole
the chips and guac
sea.
act?
If you've ever seen the Lincoln Memorial, it has a typo.
It does?
Yes.
They didn't chisel it out?
We can't chisel it out. The problem was it's the word future.
Okay.
And it says with high hope for the future. Only they didn't use an F for the future. They used an E.
Oh, interesting.
So they filled it in as best they could, but you can still see the filling.
Oh, that's funny. I was looking more at ones that had severe monetary consequence.
Okay. All right.
Those were the ones that, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying those were the ones that I thought were kind of interesting. Now, I had to weed through a whole bunch that were not interesting to find a couple that I thought were.
Okay.
The first of these are in order of what I think is interesting. So good luck ranking that. The first of these, and by the way, I did not know any of these beforehand. These were all new to me. So if you remember these, I'll be impressed. The first of these came on a trading debut of JCOM Co., which was a job recruiting firm that listed in December of 2005 on the Tokyo Exchange.
Oh, not that long ago.
20 years ago, but still. J-Com Co. is just gives it away as an early 2000s technology company, right? Yeah.
Sure.
So anyway, so it was listed with the help of the Mizuho Security Company, which is a brokerage arm of the Mizuho Financial Group. Mizuho Securities mistakenly placed an order to sell 610,000 shares for 1 yen each. That was the order that they placed.
What should they have gone
They
for?
meant to sell one share for 610,000 yen.
Oh my word.
Yeah, which for comparison is about $5,000 at the time, right? $5,000 US. So
were there other shares that had been sold to the market previous to this?
So I believe it had just floated, right? So this thing's just coming to market. At the time, it's trading for around $5,000 US.
Yeah.
They mistakenly put this out in obviously the reverse order, right? 610,000 shares for 1 yen each.
Yeah.
Now, this was 42 times more the number of shares JCOM had outstanding. So it was
Oh my word.
It was an order that was too big. And of course, as you would expect, it sent the shares of this tiny company plummeting.
Yeah.
Because they just put out this giant sell order at $1. Or sorry, less than $1.
Well, sure, you're holding the price down to 1 yen.
Yeah. This error, the original error was that they just keyed it in wrong. It was exacerbated by software glitches that prevented Mizuho Securities from canceling the transaction when it discovered the mistake.
Oh my gosh.
A minute and a half after it was made. So they caught it a minute and a half after, but then they couldn't cancel.
How many shares had they sold in a minute and a half? You'd think they'd sell a ton.
So after frantically trying to cancel the order for about half an hour, the brokerage firm was forced to buy back many of the shares at higher prices than it sold them for.
At $5,000 that they sold for a penny.
For 1 cent, yeah.
Yeah.
They lost somewhere around $250 million on this trade, right?
Oh, my gosh.
Now, at the time, they were confident that, and this is a quote from them, given our strong financial standings, we don't think we will have a problem absorbing the loss.
Okay.
They just took $250 million loss and didn't have a problem absorbing it.
Didn't blink.
That's a pretty expensive typo. They did, the trading company did raise questions about the health of the computerized order processing system at the Tokyo Exchange because the system accepted their order, even though it was clearly erroneous. Mm-hmm. Now, that I find really interesting. Like, it is not, in my opinion, it's not the exchange's job to figure out if you meant to place the order
It's not
or not.
the exchange's job.
You put the order in,
that.
their job is to push the order through, right? That is their job.
Although normally they will look at the bid and the ask, and they will
warn you.
Take the spread. They'll basically be an order specialist where they get the spread.
You would think somebody would be like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? And then you say yes or no.
They would think, oh, no, I'll let you do it. I'm going to take the difference between what this is selling for and what you're selling it for.
Yeah, I'll eat them all up. So ultimately, Mizuho Securities brought a case for its damages against the Tokyo Stock Exchange because they couldn't cancel the order due to a fault in the stock exchange's computer system. The president of the Tokyo Stock Exchange resigned in 2005, and ultimately Mizuho was awarded approximately $10 billion yen as damages, which is about $100 million.
Yeah.
So
they got less than half of that back.
Yeah, but I mean, I would suspect I would expect the stock exchange to be culpable here because you couldn't cancel the order. You should be able to cancel the order if it's on the exchange, right? That to me seems like something that's reasonable. But here's what I find really interesting about this, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Of course, I asked this whole thing. You see the typo, you see the mess, you see how it unraveled. But the question that I ask is, why was this firm that was helping launch JCOM only selling one security at a time? I couldn't find any mention of this. I'm assuming this is just their, quote, business as usual, where they're looking to set the price and drive the price up for all the rubes. Like, why would you sell one share that you have at a price if you're the exchange?
Well, a $5,000 share, I might float shares out very slowly just to see if I have takers at that level. I mean,
to set the price.
You probably don't yet have a market maker who's buying up those shares if they think the price is high or low.
To me,
it's kind of a specialty thing when you're floating things for the first time.
Canary in the coal mine, right? Seeing if it'll sell or not, or setting the price. My hunch is it's the latter. I just look at that.
There's no active bid and ask, so I can't know is this going to move or not.
Well,
where exactly at what
there clearly
point
was
is this
some active
move?
bid and ask, because when they put the ask out at 1 yen, there were plenty of bidders. So there was some activity.
But you don't
price.
Really know that in advance. You don't know if somebody's going to buy your $5,000 share at $5,000 or if they're going to buy it at $4,000 or if they're going to happily buy it at $7,000.
Turns out they'll happily buy it at 1 cent, just so you know.
Turns out.
Go ahead and mark that down.
Now, my software I use to buy and sell shares, now it's commercial and it's completely debugged and worked out and, you place the order and there's lots of warnings before you actually place the order. Yeah. It double checks with you. Are you sure you want to do this? And so you're getting a lot of are you sure?
Yeah, look, we got the benefit of 20 years since this happened, first of all. Yeah. I think there's also
Also, when you're floating shares, I can't imagine it's really worked out commercial. Now it probably is software.
Probably better, but still.
In those days, it was a little rougher than...
Caveat emptor, man. Like, you're supposed to know what the hell you're doing if you're sitting behind the desk, So, but like, I've seen trading places, right? If you put the order out for the orange juice, you don't get to send it back or whatever the fuck happened in the end. I don't remember. I just remember a very smug Aykroyd and Murphy.
They go bankrupt.
And that scene, yeah. So, so staying with this APAC theme.
That's great.
This next one I think is kind of even better. This is Samsung Securities, okay? They are the stock trading arm of the Samsung conglomerates, and they are engaged in financial services and securities, investment banking across primarily Korea, China, the US, the UK, Japan, and Hong Kong. It's one of South Korea's largest brokerages. So this is not
everything Samsung
small.
Does. They just seem to dominate.
This is a little more recent. This is April of 2018.
Okay.
An employee of Samsung Securities was tasked with distributing 1,000 won, approximately 93 US cents per share in dividends under a company compensation plan. But instead, they gave each employee 1,000 company shares.
Whoops.
This is a whoopsie. So we went from 1,000 won, approximately $1 US, to 1,000 shares. Now, this had a value on paper of about 113 trillion won. So this is over $100 billion, which was more than 30 times the company's market value.
Sure.
So a big whoopsie. Now, the company noticed the error 37 minutes later. However, while the shares were issued and before the company noticed, a handful of employees sold the shares that the company gave them.
Right, sure, of course they did.
Despite receiving warnings from the company not to. Now, my hunch is the warnings what got them triggered to go sell it, because how would you just know in 37 minutes that you got issued? I guess maybe you get a notice from your account. Right. You just got 1,000 shares.
Well, 2018, you might see it in real time.
So the employees who sold their shares could have received around $9 million US each. That was sort of like the amount had they sold them. Now, a South Korean financial watchdog later found that 21 employees traded or attempted to sell their shares to profit from the error, and they were promptly reported to prosecutors. During the legal proceedings, the defending employees claimed that they had no deliberate intention to inflict damages upon the company, and that they were only trying to test whether the deposit was indeed due to a system error, right? That was their argument.
Sure.
Some even argued that selling could not have had an actual impact on the company, as the sales were of, quote, non-existent ghost stocks.
What does that mean? I don't know what they mean by that.
Well, I'm going to talk about that here in a second. I just think it's interesting that was one of their defenses, and you'll see why in a second.
Okay.
The judge ended up ruling that these orders, which took place repeatedly and on a large scale, were more than just, quote, test attempts, and thus reflected a genuine attempt to dispose of the shares.
Sure, of course.
The Seoul court handed out suspended terms on 3 Samsung security employees, slapped 5 others with fines for selling ghost stocks that had been mistakenly issued in the fat finger error.
It's not really a fat finger error.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, you put in.
You didn't just do that with you did that with your finger. You knew you were selling the wrong.
Oh, sorry. No. The guys who ultimately issued the dividend. That's where the fat finger error was. Yeah. The fat finger error was in those who issued the dividend, right? The people who sold them, definitely not a fat finger error. But they limited. I love this. They limited the liabilities of the employees to 50% of the total loss, which I thought was interesting that they limited it to 50%.
Okay.
Should they have read any of it. Don't know. Maybe. Who knows? But this isn't what's interesting to me about this case. What's interesting is that when Samsung Securities provided the shares, it used a process of naked short selling, which is illegal in Korea, and the computer infrastructure was not supposed to allow it. So this allowed Samsung the ability to issue unauthorized stocks and misappropriate them.
Oh,
and
sure.
There's been nothing. That's why those were ghost stocks, right? They literally didn't exist because it was more than
I got you now.
the company was worth, right?
Right, of course.
They just put these arbitrarily made up stocks into everybody's accounts that didn't exist, which was just fascinating to me. I did dig around a little bit to try to find something about this. I could find no mention of any repercussions or any changes that happened. Maybe it did and they just didn't publicize it or I couldn't find it. But this one seems kind of crazy to me. Also that it was $100 billion swing.
Wow.
Like obviously it wasn't all executed, but like, holy shit, that's a bad day for the dude who, instead of selecting won, selected shares in the dropdown, which is what I'm assuming happened, right? You got 1,000 shares instead of 1,000 won. They just selected the wrong thing and hit go, and that was bad.
Or he was doing it intentionally because, who knows in this case?
I did wonder about that, but man, it seems a little big for it to be intentional.
Again, the software doesn't give you 1,000 warnings.
I mean, maybe it did.
Are you sure you want to issue 1,000 shares
maybe
per
the word
employee?
Won and share are very similar in Korean. I have no idea.
Yeah, right.
You would, and also you would think there'd be some chain of custody. What I have learned about behind the scenes and my time in finance and other places, usually behind the scenes is just a dude with a big red button. Like,
of course. At
some point, all the controls
it's not
go away.
Worked out, right?
It's not like in the movies where there's two dudes that have keys that have to turn them at the same time and push the button to execute the order. It's just one dude that hits OK on some shitty MFC app that was written in 1998, and that's it. Like, and this is an aside.
Worse, was written the night before.
I mean, do you remember the Mt. Gox exposure? This is a total digression.
Yeah, sure.
When Mt. Gox went sideways, their entire management app was all like local and just issued like SQL statements directly to the DB. I mean, it was terrible.
Sure.
I mean, it was crazy how terrible it was, but that's a digression.
You want to make your dashboard, your management apps as good as your customer facing apps. Maybe not as polished looking. Who cares?
Oh yeah, maybe
but
better.
You definitely want to have as many confirmations.
Yeah. When it is send all money in brokerage to Gaddafi, you might want to
send more money than we're worth to.
Yeah, totally. By a factor of 30, not just more by like $1, more than a factor of 30. Those were fun to me.
Yeah, sure.
But they weren't the one. This is the one. This is the one that got me to want to do this segment. Okay, now these were both APAC stories, right? We had Japan and Korea. Now let's see how we do it in the great old US of A.
Okay.
And a little lead in for this. At least twice in 2023, so last year, the USPS slow paid thousands of their letter carriers across the country.
Tell me what that means, slow paid.
They didn't pay their fucking salaries on time. So
why would you ever do that?
Not pay them on time?
Yeah.
Well, they had fuck ups. They had fuck ups in their system. So this affected like 2.2.
Wow, don't do that. Your employees need their money. Do not do that.
2.2 thousand people in November and 53,000 carriers in September.
Oh, my word.
Right? Now, last month in December, Minnesota U.S. Senator Tina Smith said, quote, "It's concerning because when postal leaders responded to our first questions about people not getting paid, they said it's something that they had fixed and would never happen again. And then lo and behold, barely a month later, we have the same problem again with fewer people, but with similar challenges."
Wow.
Now, in September of 2023, a rural carrier in Georgia said that it was the 8th time he experienced pay issues and that 6 of them resulted from his manager inputting his hours incorrectly.
Oh, okay.
Not just not getting paid, but also like, checks and balances or just problems.
Sure.
Along the line. That month, the USPS offered impacted carriers a money order salary advance worth 65% of their gross pay. They use that as a rough estimate of their typical take-home pay. So presumably it was easier for the USPS to issue in advance than to correct the underlying issue, which is nuts to me.
It's also nuts they were only giving them 65% of their gross pay. Give them their full money.
Well, they're saying post-tax. They're basically saying this is what you would have got post-tax as a loan, and then you pay it back.
You can always give it to them as a loan and figure it out later.
Yeah. Just keep rolling that technical debt ball as big as you can. Just the financial problem later. No.
I don't know.
Just give it back
postal
later.
carriers. It's not like they're swimming in spare money. They probably need their money month to month. They probably need their money.
Well, so now listen to this. This is the one. This is the one that got me interested. I ran across this story from Jeff White. He's was a one-time senior manager of database operations and is now the enterprise architecture manager for Cockroach Labs. And he tells what happened.
Cockroach Labs. Tell me what that is.
Yeah, it's not the best. It's not the best name. There was actually a whole thread of people that just said the name gives them this visceral reaction to the process. These are the guys that built or build and maintain Cockroach DB, which is a cloud native SQL database. Right?
Okay, sure.
It's an interesting product. The name doesn't turn me off. I also think it's just a terrible name.
I wonder why they called it that. I wonder why they named it that.
I think, don't quote me on this. I should probably look this up, but I think it's because like it won't die. I think that's the whole premise.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right? Cockroaches don't die. This is a database that won't die. We'll name it not Cockroach Labs. I gotta believe there's nobody from the marketing department involved and they came up with a name. I think that was just
Sure.
a bunch of nerds sitting around going for the cute joke. So Jeff talks about what happened 20 years ago as this sort of amazing tale of how a series of small but unfortunate events can quickly add up to a very expensive problem.
Okay.
And so this is like 2004-ish. And I think you're going to love this. So apparently, the USPS runs one of the largest and most complex payroll systems in the world. Jeff said it's so complicated that no outside company will take it on, not for any amount of money. They tried to outsource it many times, and everyone takes one look and says, hell no, no way we're touching that. At the time, the USPS, by the way, United States Postal Service, their payroll was over $1 billion every 2 weeks.
Sure.
So a lot of money. And half of the payroll was live checks, which is insane to me. So the data center actually printed checks and they would go out by the semi-truckload. This is like the set of the problem.
But I don't think it's not understandable. I would think postal carriers, there would be a lot of them. They aren't necessarily going to be high-tech people. I think they would have live checks. I think that would be a common thing.
I would expect this was 2004, but I would have thought even then you would have had at least half or 2/3 of the people on EFT. But I don't know. That's beyond me. Okay, so a new union contract comes in and the operators needed to adjust payroll. Normally this would be a simple, what they call JCL job, right? A job control language job, which is the scripting language used on IBM mainframes to instruct the system on how to run a batch job. Okay. However, while making the update, the JCL operator accidentally keyed in the wrong year.
Again. Really?
Right? Yeah. And we were about Y2K. Really, it turns out the problem is here. Now, normally, Jeff says, this would not be a big deal. Each new pay period started Friday at midnight. The day before a pay period would run, the mainframe would do a pre-flight calculation on any issues it saw, and it would generate a report that would go to finance. Every Friday morning, the finance would go over things and approve the batch to run. But then something unexpected happened. Ronald Reagan died.
He was the one who checked the batches?
It all went to Ronald Reagan.
That's really, I did not expect that.
Right? That he was literally the single point of failure for the USPS.
Talk about a hands-on manager.
And he just went through, he just couldn't let it go. He was a micromanager to the end.
Had no idea.
This was, it only trickled down so far. It trickled down to Ronald and then it stopped.
Okay.
So anyway, so he's dead. They don't know what to do. No, here's what happens.
Issue the checks. That's what you do. Your people still need to get paid.
Oh, well, okay. Hold on a second now. Slow down, cowboy. Now, when a former president dies, federal employees get a holiday.
Great.
And this is according to the Office of Personnel Management. Beginning with the death of President Kennedy in 1963, the incumbent president has issued an executive order closing government offices throughout the world as a, quote, mark of respect upon the death of each president or former president.
And that happens immediately? That doesn't we don't schedule a day? It's like, drop your things. We're all going home right now.
If only I would have thought of these questions when writing this segment.
Okay, sorry.
Now, Ronald Reagan died on a Tuesday. There was a lot of indecision inside the federal government as to when they would set the federal holiday for his death, and they didn't decide.
So they do set it.
Yeah, and they didn't decide until Thursday, late in the day, that on Friday they were going to give all federal employees the day off. So he dies on Tuesday. They decide on Thursday, hey, you know what? Tomorrow, long weekend.
So none of you can really plan anything special to do with your time off. Excellent. No. Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it's a death. What do you want? As a result, no one was scheduled to go into the finance department to go look at these reports that were kicked out on, every Friday morning. So what happens? Well, the mainframe doesn't get the day off, right? It doesn't get the holiday.
Right.
So it dutifully runs the report. Now, normally the report printout was around 30 to 40 pages of issues. The pre-flight report with these new payroll changes, though, was about 5,000 pages, 2 orders of magnitude larger than usual. Now, it printed out on a Thursday night, so apparently, fuck you, trees.
Sure.
Just 5,000 pages came out. And as usual, the print operator dropped it off because, it's just a print job to them. They don't know what it is.
Right, they don't look at it.
Yeah, so the print operator just brought it to the accounting department, dropped it off to review on Friday morning. But the government offices are closed, so no one looks at it.
By the way, somebody works in that department who normally looks at that report, who normally looks at that pre-flight check. And knew they were taking Friday off and didn't bother to go, but this report's going to show up.
I think
somebody ought to cover this.
I feel like maybe you're prevented from going in because it's a federal holiday. I don't know. Who knows?
Well, if that happens and I'm the guy who normally gets the report, I'm going to squawk up and down to everybody saying we're going to have a problem.
Maybe they were so distraught with the loss of President Reagan.
He hadn't been president in years. Operate. He was old.
Well,
it wasn't like he died on
something.
Yes,
I've given you a trickle-down reference in Star Wars. What more do you want? I was fucking 6. Okay, I don't remember a lot. You were in college.
But he didn't die die
some
when
love.
you were 6. He died like, a handful of, whatever it was, 15 years ago.
2004. I was 3.
Sure you were.
Anywho, so no one's there to read the report. Yes, you and I can dig into with the OPM on why nobody was there, and we can make that our thing.
See, I could see the screw up for like Kennedy. Kennedy died in office. Reagan, we had at least 10 years or more of warning while he had Alzheimer's and all sorts of issues and all the rest of it.
Kennedy died in a car.
Well, that's true. But he died while holding the office of President of the United States.
It's hard to do jokes around president assassination.
Okay.
They don't fly. It's really hard. I'm sure somebody can do them. It's just not me. Yes, no, I understand there are differences. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they get the day off. The day happened to be on a Friday. Some 5,000 page report kicks out, which, by the way, just for perspective, that's 10 reams of paper.
Yeah, oh, sure,
So
sure.
The printing department, which, by the way, blows my fucking mind, there's a printing department. The printing department delivers 10 reams of a report to someone's desk, and there's no one there to see it, right? So
Sure.
that's just crazy.
And the guy who delivers it has to know this is an abnormality.
Well, no, but I don't think they know. Who knows how many other
he
reports they're
normally
delivering?
delivers, a half a ream of paper or whatever he normally delivers,
Sure.
and now he's delivering 10 reams of paper.
It was the summertime. Maybe somebody ordered a bunch of invites for their kid's birthday. I don't fucking know. I wasn't there. But the point is that the report is generated on Thursday, printed, delivered Friday morning. Government offices are closed. There's no one there to look at it. Eventually, midnight rolls around, and the mainframe kicks off and starts executing all EFT deposits and printing paychecks. Once the job wraps up, 150,000 employees have been overpaid to the tune of $500 million.
Wait, why were they overpaid?
Whatever the year miss keying.
It's a normal payroll with the wrong date on it.
The year miss keying, because it was this new contract, they miskeyed the year. It calculated the payments wrong. So it inflated it by 50%. I don't know why. I haven't been able to find out why. But the point is, the payroll was going out. It went out with a larger number.
Okay.
So they just inflated payroll by roughly 50%. The first problem is that the USPS didn't have an extra $500 million hanging out
On
in their
hand,
bank
sure,
account,
of
right?
course.
So they've just made what Jeff calls the mother of all overdrafts.
Yeah.
Which sounds bad. The executive in charge of accounting comes into the office on Saturday morning for some reason. He sees the printout. He knows that what the report is, right? And he sees 5,000 pages. He starts flipping through it and presumably shits his pants. He calls the guy who was Jeff's boss, screaming that we need to stop payroll immediately. Now, the EFTs are already long out the door,
Of course.
but it takes a day and a half to print the full run of live paychecks. So they stop the payroll about 2/3 of the way through. So 2/3 of it's already gone. Now they got to figure out who did and who didn't get overpaid, and then get everyone who hasn't been paid yet paid. So they did try to prioritize, it sounds like, getting everybody paid.
Good,
at least.
good.
They had to bring in all the programmers who are, these guys are all unionized, to work on a Saturday and Sunday to write a program to finish paying all the people who haven't been paid in the run.
Sure.
They then have to call the Secretary of the Treasury at home on a weekend to ask if the U.S. Treasury can spot the USPS $500 million.
Sure.
Which I would like a transcript of how that call.
By the way,
went
you're
down.
the Secretary of the Treasury. Get over it. I'm calling you at home to ask and telling you have problems. You have a
sure.
big title. You have a big job. Get over it. Pick up the phone.
I'm not saying that person was or wasn't complaining. I just think it's fascinating that the dude got Friday off for the death of President Reagan, and now he's sitting at home in his boxers and they're like, hey, yeah, it started bugging on Saturday. Can we borrow $500 million? And then they just cringe and duck. Anyway,
it's the U.S. government. We're good for the dough. Let's just we'll give you the loan and it's all good.
The second problem, though, is that they have to get all that money back that they overpaid. And apparently, if a federal employee is accidentally overpaid, the government can only recoup 16.67% of the amount of the overpayment per paycheck
fascinating.
period.
Why is that? That's so interesting.
Right? I'm assuming it's so that it's not a huge hit to them.
Yeah.
Even though in theory it should net out to be the same over 2 pay periods.
Right, sure.
So you can't take it all back at once. You got to spread it out over at least 6 paychecks.
Oh, so you
right?
can get all the money back. You just have to spread it out over a lot of pay periods.
Yeah. Sorry,
That makes total sense.
16.67% per paycheck.
That's actually probably great.
So you have to do over 6 paychecks, right? 2 weeks apart, 12 weeks. You're looking at 3-4 months. And that's assuming you don't make any more mistakes that require recoupment.
Sure.
If you've only made the one, you get to do over 6 paychecks. So they had to write a special payroll job to pull all this money back, and it took them 4 or 5 months ultimately to get it all. But finally, it was all accounted for.
Yeah.
Now, there was a congressional investigation as to how this could happen, which established the cause as simply a JCL operator keyed in the year 2003 instead of 2004. They just wrote the wrong number on the check. That's all they did, right? Which we've all done.
Again, the software software should say, you're writing in a year that it isn't.
Well,
the software should check that.
My hunch is if this is in this JCL, this isn't like a scripting language, you might not have the benefit of like a controlled input because they're actually setting the parameters for the new union contract. So I don't think it's that easy. But there is something that I think is kind of fascinating. Oh, before I get to that, remarkably, nobody was fired for this, right? Like apparently things happen.
Yeah, it's government.
If Ronald Reagan had picked a different day to die on, this would have been caught before a single typo cost the USPS potentially $500 million.
Right. Would it just cost them a ream of paper?
If you're going to blame anybody, blame Reagan.
Oh, okay. That's what I'll do.
Just pick the shit day to die on. Now, okay, I think this is the most interesting story, right? But the to me, the underlying issue from this, I've surmised from Jeff's story here that the USPS's payroll is a very complicated process. My question is, why in the world would they default the job to be approved as opposed to, quote, waiting for approval?
Stop. Right. Of course.
I mean, you would just think you'd want someone to like double check it, maybe even two people to read the fucking report and click a confirm button before dumping out $1 billion in payroll.
Of course.
Like that to me seems like the most obvious thing.
Also,
now,
why is this payroll system so complicated? I mean, we're good at this now. We're okay at computers. Somebody could write this to run on a Raspberry Pi.
I don't know. My hunch is...
Get out of this IBM scripting language that takes so much processing power to do very little.
You might have very, very, very many layers of like nuanced union differences in each locale. And that shit can be a real nightmare to try to...
Oh, you don't think it's one union contract?
I don't know.
That's awful if it isn't.
I don't know. I mean, all I know is having looked at this problem before in the entertainment industry and the different unions in the entertainment industry, man, that was gnarly. And that's a lot younger
but this is very different. This is
I don't know.
These are federal employees. They're all doing the same, job
My
categories.
hunch is there are plenty of companies that would be happy to take some consulting money to build a system to do this.
Of course.
And the fact that no one has tells me it's probably a pretty complicated problem. But who knows?
Or the USPS is willing to pay nothing to have it fixed. Right.
Well,
sure.
Or they could just keep paying $500 million, borrow it from the Treasury. Now, I'm assuming that what has probably happened here is they've packed the job state into a single fucking bit back in the Ford administration, and no one's had the balls to touch that code since. So you basically only get two, you get like approved or not approved. That's it. Those are the only states that it can be in.
Right.
Because I think, everything comes back to Occam's razor. That's the easiest one. But
sure.
Here's what gets me. It is literally harder for you and I to unsubscribe from Planet Fitness than for them to send out 10 digits worth of payroll. That's insane. Here's my thing. I just think AI can't get here fast enough to fix all these problems.
Somehow you think AI is going to make this because it's just bad programming.
Well,
of all things that can be run procedurally, you'd think payroll would be very easy to run procedurally.
You got to get AI at the right time. If you wait too long and it's sentient, it's going to look at this problem and be like, "Fuck that, we're not touching that. No way." We've all been there. I've seen plenty of systems that I'm like, "Nope, this. I know you touch one thing in here and just springs come out the back."
Let's throw it out and start over. There's an awful lot of computer code in the world that we should not go in and touch and play with. Just throw it out and start over.
Yeah. Hard to do, man. Easy to say, hard to do.
I got two more typos I'll tell you about.
You got more?
Of course. Webster's Dictionary, New International Dictionary, 1934. Yep. They added a word called DORD. D-O-R-D.
D-O-R-D. DORD.
Yeah.
Okay, what's a DORD?
And they put it in the right place in the dictionary and all that. It's actually something from...
Under D's?
Yeah, of course. Okay. It's listed as a noun referring to the density in the fields of physics and chemistry. What they actually meant was capital D or lowercase d. And they took out the spaces and created a word called DORD. That was a typo.
That's really funny.
They hastily marked the announcement imperative and urgent. They need to correct this ghost word as quickly as possible. Because the dictionary, they take themselves very seriously.
Sure. Let's bring DORD back.
And the other one, Google, yeah. Larry Page was going to name the company Google after it was called like Backrub or something like that. And he wanted to name Google. He wanted something that sounded cooler, which is a 1 followed by 100 zeros, right?
100 zeros, yeah.
Sean Anderson typed in the domain name to check its availability, but he accidentally searched for Google, the current spelling of Google.
Sure.
That typo stuck, which is how we now have Google instead of Google.
Yeah, I mean, it's way better the way it is. It looks like Google, other than people trying to wrap their tongue around Google.
Yeah, it's perfect the way it is. You can pronounce it and it looks great. Buy and hodl.
Buy and hodl?
Do you know about buy and hodl?
Gesundheit?
Cryptocurrency dudes will tell you buy and hodl. What they mean is buy and hold.
Fucking idiots.
But there was a typo in somebody, and so now they all say buy and hodl.
That's really funny.
The one that I think that is fun that is not a typo, pneumonia with a P, has a P in front of it, a silent P, like pterodactyl. pterodactyl.
Yeah,
Pterodactyl is
yep.
that silent P. And it seems like, well, that's got to be a typo. It's not. Greek words that had a silent P, and that's actually where that comes
I
from.
torture my children. My wife tells me not to do this, like, because my oldest, well, both kids are actually working on spelling, and they like to sound the words out. So every now I'll be like, oh yeah, you little shit, what does pneumonia start with?
Exactly.
And my wife's like, why do you do this to them? I'll teach them now.
English is mean.
I want them to get the hard words from me, not from somebody else.
All right, we have to get out of here, but quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Well, not read, but seen and heard.
Well, that counts.
Yeah, right. So, and I'm just happy for once I actually have something for this part of the show. I took my dad and another friend of mine and his wife to see the Eagles on the Long Goodbye tour over the weekend.
Yeah, this is their final tour. They're finally hanging it up.
I'll believe it when I see it. I've been to so many final tours. I saw Prince play his final tour 4 times. So
sure, I think Elton John is still on his final tour.
Yeah, he's still on the final. It's the super final tour. They should name them like people name Word documents. It should be like final underscore the final goodbye.
Seriously,
long road,
really,
serious,
the final tour.
Def final doc. No, anyway, no, it was great. Henley,
great show.
Henley still sounds really good,
amazing.
and he's more of a smart ass than I remember him being. He had some funny things to say.
Yeah,
he did say the show was brought to us by Paxlovid, so I'm assuming one of them was sick at some point.
Sick?
Yeah, and then you've got Deacon Fry.
Here's the amazing thing. Let me just while you're on Don Henley, let me just say, it's amazing to me that anyone can drum and sing.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
That combination seems impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a handful of guys who do it, but it's
him,
still
Collins. Who else?
Mickey Dolenz, Karen Carpenter.
Right, it's incredible. No, he's really amazing. It was a great show. They've got Deacon Fry in Glenn Fry's son.
Yeah,
and he does an amazing job. He was awesome. Of course, Vince Gill.
He sounds just like his dad. He sounds so good.
Does. Yeah, and then of course you've got Joe Walsh, who has always looked odd.
The best,
right? But he just always makes those funny faces, and like he looks, even as he gets older, he just looks more odd, which I find hard to believe, like how that's possible.
Yeah,
and plays into it.
I see him at Dodger games. He's a Dodger fan.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
He's playing. I mean, for his age, the fact he can play like that is amazing. It's definitely not as tight as when he was younger. But
I don't think that's true. He's absolutely mind-blowing, incredible, and I think he holds his own with any guitar player of any age.
I mean, he's.
I think he's tight as ever.
He's pretty amazing.
He's amazing. His Maserati does 185.
It does do 185, but he can't drive it no more.
Because of that song, people think he's a rock and roller who doesn't really care that much about the music and trashes hotel rooms. And the fact is, he is crazy about getting everything perfect. He's an amazing musician.
And then, of course, they had Steely Dan opening, who I've never seen, or at least what's left of Steely Dan.
Oh, sure.
Opening.
Half of Steely Dan. The other half is gone.
A third, sure.
Yeah.
Now, I've never seen them before. I was mildly excited to see them. I was grumpy at the end because they didn't play Deacon Blues, which is like one of their biggest hits and one of my favorite songs.
I have been to so many, I can't even tell you, so many Steely Dan concerts where they've skipped Deacon Blues, and I don't know why.
I'm assuming they're sick of playing it. I mean, they just got to be.
I don't know. They play everything else just fine. Walter Becker passed away, and so the only half of it you're seeing Donald Fagen.
Yeah, sure.
And a friend of his or somebody who plays the other parts brilliantly.
I'm assuming this Deacon Blues thing is kind of like another favorite band of mine. It's called Cake, and they had one big breakout hit. They have plenty of great songs. One big breakout hit called The Distance, and anytime I've seen them play in the past 20 years, they play The Distance at triple time. They literally play the whole song in like 35 seconds, and it's kind of a cool version, but they're just like, fuck, we're sick of playing this song, and they just rip through it, and a bunch of people are annoyed by it, and it's like, well, their catalog's still pretty good.
Sure.
Now, I will say, having never seen Steely Dan, I was a little excited to see them, just because I was like, okay, this will be interesting. Now, a good friend of mine and devout listener to the show is a what we would call a music guy, and I said, hey, do you want to go see it? And he referred to Steely Dan as masturbatory noodle garbage, and I just can't.
I don't know what that is, but I'll believe you.
I just can't get those 3 words out of my head.
What is that?
The whole time they were playing, that's just all I kept thinking about, and I was just like, yeah, it's kind of masturbatory noodle garbage, whatever that means. But
I don't know. I enjoy it. I think they're great fun, and they're good in concert.
There are 2 things that stuck with me from the show. I mean, it was great to take my dad and be able to see him.
Your dad must have had a ball.
He had a blast. The average age at this show was probably in the mid to high 60s.
Oh, 100%.
Right, which you would expect.
Because you think the Eagles have been playing music for 50 years or more.
I mean, so Henley actually said, he's like, we've been playing the Forum for 49 years.
Oh, that's crazy.
And he said, we consider this our home field, which I thought was pretty cool. But the part that was really cool to me, too, about this show was seeing the number of people that brought their parents. You know, these are like folks that are like middle-aged, like 30, 40 years old, brought their parents. Their parents are, struggling.
2 generations of Eagle fans, at least.
Totally, which was super cool. And then the part that was kind of sad/not sad to me, we were sitting, 10 rows up, and the number of people, 95% of the people walking up the stairs at the Forum were just struggling.
Again, 50 years of rock and roll. That's going to happen if you were.
Would absolutely go in. Parking getting out was terrible, I must say. Imagine when SoFi, the Forum, and the Intuit Dome all have an event on the same night and let out. That is going to be a shit show.
Well, let's hope that the train, some sort of mass transit goes into that area so that you can get people in and out quickly, because that'll be wonderful if that's the case.
You'll be shuttling out like 80,000 people. Like that's
And a train can do that.
insane.
100%. The individual cars are a terrible idea coming in out of that.
But it was a lot of fun. So it was a great weekend. It was a good show. If the Eagles are coming to a city near you, I would say go see them.
Catch some of the noodle garbage.
The noodle garbage, Matt noodle garbage. Let me know what you think of those guys. What did you do? Any concerts? Any movies?
Not a concert, but I wanted to recommend Bradley Cooper's movie Maestro. I wanted to, and then I saw it. So that's not going to be my recommendation, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah, unfortunately. So this time I'm you, and I have a YouTube video recommendation. You've talked about Pepsi and the blind taste test a few weeks back.
Yep.
It's not really a secret that I'm kind of a freak about audio gear and microphones and things like that.
Not a secret.
And I blind audition microphones relentlessly.
As you should. Yeah.
I don't want to know what the brand is. I don't want to know who makes it. I just
want it sounds good.
Give me a bunch of samples and let me pick what I think is the best sounding microphones. Okay. Exactly how I want to do
ABX testing. Love it.
Marquise Brownlee, great YouTuber, has done this with smartphone cameras.
Oh, cool.
The video is called The Blind Smartphone Camera Test. And it is exactly what you want. It is 20 million people looking at the same photos who voted blindly, not knowing what they came from.
Awesome.
I will put the link in the show notes. You have to see this. It is spectacular. As a dear friend of mine recommended, I would actually like to see one variation on it where all of the voters are professional photographers.
Oh, sure.
But I love what he put up. I mean, it's great. I'm extremely happy to have gotten the version that he made. It's great. The Blind Smartphone Camera Test, and I'll put the link in the show notes.
You should definitely put it in the show notes, but I don't need to watch it because I know it's going to be an iPhone.
Well, yeah, not a shock. The iPhone does great.
I'm just saying it has to be.
It comes in 7th.
Best one ever.
That is the episode.
I love that I've turned into an Apple shill. I don't even know how that happened. I think just because you're so not. All right. Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense. Truly Terrible podcast where I endorse Apple from the Awful Company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm Stu Diddle.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like it. Apple, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, our favorite, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Podcastindex.org. Special thanks to our floor director, Craig Little.
Is that my dad in there? Is that what all that
is your
white
dad.
hair is? Well, that's why he's so grumpy.
By the way, he looks great. In pictures, this is weird. In pictures, he looks exactly like you. He has no wrinkles.
It's freaky. It's absolutely freaky.
How has he kept his skin and everything looking so good?
No idea.
He looks like he's 40 years younger than he is.
Now he's going to come back and do another show. You keep buttering him up like this. All right, thanks, Dad. We'll be here every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us. Beep.
At the tone, the time is.
Oh my God. Can you even explain that concept to kids now?
Can you explain anything to kids these days? That's my question. Thank you. I'll be here all night.